Italy and Scotland, folks. Six Nations 2022 this weekend. The first game on Saturday. We're going to go through the lineups, some stats, predictions, and you guys can let me know your thoughts on how this one is going to go. Italy, obviously, still winless in the tournament thus far. Winless for a few tournaments now. None from 3 attempts for them. They are down at the bottom of the log. Scotland, well, their chances of a Six Nations, successful campaign in terms of, being in it with a week to go. That took a hit when they've suffered 2 losses after their initial win. So they're in 4th, but they'll be looking to bounce back and at least finish the Six Nations as high as they can. Italy have had to make a few changes to their squad for the weekend. Remember, they had issues with their hookers last time in terms of Lucchese getting injured and then the replacement fiver getting red carded against Ireland. So there's 2 new hookers into the squad. Nicotera gets the start, and a familiar face with Luca, Bigi, the former captain. He is there on the bench. So that's, I guess, a little bit of depth building in Nicotera to get a start, and a bit of experience with Bigi to take over when needed. Ceccarelli and Fischetti are the props alongside him. Cannone and Ruzza, same locking combo. Pettinelli is still at 6. Lamaro is still captain at 7, and Halafihi is still there at 8. So as much as it's changed with the hookers, it's pretty stable with everybody else. In the 9-10 combo, Braley takes over at 9, and Giovanni is not even in the squad. Fusco is there on the bench. I thought Fusco may have earned a start at this point because he has added some value when he's come on, but it's to Braley that the starting role falls, and Garbisi is still there at number 10. Marin continues his role at 12. Remember, he was initially kind of the guy who came on a wee bit at the end at fullback, and then he got a start in the midfield last time, so he's continuing that role, and then he's alongside Brex, so that's another bit of stability. Bruno and Ioane are on the wings. Bruno was the guy who he had to get substituted when they went down to 13 men last time, so Bruno didn't get much of a chance against Ireland, so hopefully he'll get an 80-minute or at least hour plus this time. And Padovani has actually looked pretty comfortable at the back. Capuzzo is there in the 23 jumper. I think it's his Italian debut. I believe he's playing in France, and I've heard lots of good things about him. The guy who's in the 23 jersey get utility back. Zanon is there as the other back alongside Fusco, who I mentioned. Zuliani, Sisi, Zilocchi, Neymar, and Bigi, as I mentioned, are the other forward replacements. In terms of individuals, it's harder sometimes to find the positive stats for the Italian guys because they have spent a fair bit of time on the wrong side of the scoreboard, but I mean, there's still some positives to be found. Lamaro has the most tackles of anybody in the Six Nations thus far. That speaks to the fact that Italy's playing without the ball a lot, but also that the captain is willing to get in there and lead from the front, so that's a pleasing thing to see. He's only a really young guy, so yeah, for his future, I think that speaks pretty well. And Fischetti, the prop, he is second on his own for dominant tackles, so he's putting in some big hits as well. So defensively, although they've been shipping a few points, it tends to be at the end of the games or the end of the half. So yeah, we'll see if they can kind of put in a more 80-minute performance this week. For Scotland, they have made a few changes to the side. Schumann, Turner, and Fagerson are the front row. So Turner and McAnally swap places, and there's been a little bit of that rotation going on from Gregor Townsend. Sam Skinner, Grant Gilchrist are the locks. That's steady as she goes. Daj moves to 6. Watson's at 7, and Matt Fagerson's back at 8. So that's that Watson and Daj combo, which I think we missed out on last time, right? Gets a chance to make an appearance. So speaking of guys who like to make tackles, those 2 guys are well up there as well. Price and Russell is the 9-10 combo. So again, steady as she goes. Not much in the way of experimentation, even though what's his name? Hastings has been recalled. Had to look up my notes. His name was escaping me. He's been out the squad for such a long time. But no hasty moves to drop Finn. Sam Johnson's back though at 12. So Tuipulotu drops to the bench. And I'm kind of happy about that because I think Scotland's attack has looked a little bit better with Johnson there. I know it's a different role that he plays from Tupelotu, but there you go. That's just my opinion. Chris Harris at 13. Darcy Graham and Kyle Steyn are the wings. Remember, Juan van der Merwe is out with a suspension that he copped playing for Worcester the other day, and Stuart Hogg continues on as captain at 15. Alan Dell's in the squad, which is a change, so he's in after a fair absence. WP Nell, Pierre, I should say, Nell is there. Hodgson, Bradbridge off to the bench. Vellacott's in as well. That's pleasing. I've been kind of keen to see Vellacott get a crack for Scotland because he has just been absolutely lively at the URC level, and if he comes on to take on some tired defenders, he could be in for some joy. Hastings, like I mentioned, at Tupelotu. Kinghorn is not in the squad. I think it just had personal reasons from what I remember as to why he's not selected. Redpath's out with kind of a long-term injury, I believe. So, yeah, that's kind of unfortunate for him, but there you go. Scotland's guys, I mean, Hogg is clocking up some run meters. I think he's second overall in the competition, albeit fullbacks tend to be high on those numbers because they often catch the ball at the back and get to run a few metres forward unopposed. He's also second for kick metres, so that big boot of his has been putting in some pay. But more impressive, I think, is Darcy Graham is first equal for defenders beaten with 10. Him and Penno. Absolute monster of a man. It was Duhan last year. It's Darcy this season, so pleased for him. But I mean, on the bad side, Xander Fagerson is the most penalised, I think first equal as well, penalised player in the competition thus far. So that's an area where Scotland would like him to stop doing that, please. Team-wise, Italy have kind of been living off scraps in the competition thus far. It's hard to take too much into the Ireland game because they did play the majority of the game with 13 men on the field, but they've not had much possession, they've not had much territory. They're kind of averaging 40% in most of those games. I think the only game they've ever gotten over 50 was they were 50-something in territory against England. So everything else they've been on the wrong side of those stats, which is not always a bad thing because sometimes winning teams like the French are quite happy to play without the ball. But there you go, that just is what it is. And they do seem to tire as the halves go on. They concede on average 7 points in the first 20 of each half and 14 points in the second 20. So they come out firing, they're able to tackle their hearts out, but by the end of the half, these guys are generally getting tired. And yeah, that's not ideal. Their ruck completion rate, though, so their ability to protect their own ball, is slightly higher than Scotland. Scotland are the lowest in the competition. It's only a marginal difference, but there you go. There's one positive stats for the Italian team. The Scotland lineup, though, is the highest in terms of completion rate for the competition, so that could be a good platform for them to set up some sweet set plays, provided they don't just want to maul it every time. And it's a weird one when you look at Scotland's stats because the French game is really a big old exception. Like, Scotland kicked 27 times from hand against England, 28 times against Wales, 11 times against France. They just kept running it. It's a bizarre stat to read. Clean breaks conceded, 3 against England, 1 against Wales, and 6 against France. Maybe that just speaks value to the French attack being that much more cutting compared to the English and Welsh ones. But yeah, the Scottish defence has been pretty stingy in the last few years, so that was a surprising one to see. In one game, they conceded more than the other 2 games put together. Recent record between the sides is lopsided, obviously. It's all Scotland, 5-0 from the last 5, the most recent one being a pretty big, emphatic victory for the Scots, 52-10 last year. The average score across the last 5 games is 32-15, so Scotland on average doubling the Italian score or a little bit more. The last Italian win over Scotland came in 2015, which I think is their last Six Nations win, which is quite some time ago. And I think that was at Murrayfield. So they are at home, the Italians, this time. So if there's one thing going for them, it is that. And the Scots are, I don't want to say in a bad place, but they'll be disappointed with how the season's gone in the last 2 rounds. But yeah, we'll kind of have to see if the Italians can surprise us. The bookies don't think so. They're saying Scotland by 20 points. The Rugby Forecast algorithm also doesn't think so. They're saying Scotland by 18 points. I would also say if I was picking a game, a result, I'd probably be picking Scotland by a decent amount, but that almost goes without saying, doesn't it? So it is on Saturday, Stadio Olimpico. It's 3:15 local time, which is 2:15 GMT. Luke Pearce is your ref. Should be an interesting one. It's a chance for the Scottish guys who've not really shifted up the whole squad to to show us something else, and it's a chance for the Italian guys to play with 15 men on the park for 80 minutes, hopefully, and also kind of embed what Kieran Crowley's got them doing. So yeah, we'll see. You guys let me know your thoughts. If you want British and Irish Lions gear, link in the description for them. They are still having 70% off some of the gear, so it's always a good idea to get yourself some discounted rugby gear, I reckon, but I am a bit biased. But yeah, you guys take care of yourselves, and I'll see you again soon. See you later.